I pledge allegiance to the constitutions of the United States of America and to the federal republic for which it stands, one union, under God, inviolate, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, my name is Mark Powls, and this is Verity Seeker. So what is the mission of Verity Seeker? Well, by definition, verity, a true principle or belief, especially one of fundamental importance. Truth. Seeker, a person who is attempting to find or obtain something. That's how I came up with the name Verity Seeker. This podcast will be dedicated to finding the truth. Evidence, common sense, history, and the laws of nature or natural law can determine an absolute truth. Most things in and of this realm are clearly an absolute truth and painfully non-negotiable in many cases, and we must reconcile with that truth. For example, if I hold this eraser and release it, it will fall. That is an absolute truth. There are things in this realm that you can't negotiate with. Okay? You can try to circumvent it. You can try to change it. But in its rarest form, there is an absolute truth. As with all things discussed here, with Verity Seeker, natural laws will be our compass. Today we're going to learn the truth about our state's constitution. Since I am a citizen of the great state of Kansas, this will be our topic. Now, to set the stage, I just want to summarize our current problem here in Kansas. Sometime after January 2020, we were told that a pandemic was unleashed upon the earth. Although most counties across Kansas were not affected by this horrible virus that was supposed to kill millions of Americans, our current governor declared an emergency in Kansas, and our state's legislature handed her all powers as commander-in-chief over the entire state under the Kansas Emergency Powers Act. This statute, although completely unconstitutional, is designed to provide temporary unconstitutional powers to a governor, in the case of disastrous situations, not an emergency or pandemic. Upon receiving these temporary unconstitutional powers, this governor sent the entire legislative body home and proceeded to shut down our schools through the State Board of Education and Kansas High School Activities Association, then ordered businesses, churches, and entertainment venues to shut down, while exempting those businesses deemed essential only by this government. From the beginning, I have personally pushed back against our Kansas legislature, governor, Board of Education, and the Kansas High School Activities Association. By the way, the Kansas High School Activities Association is not a taxpayer-supported entity, yet they control all of our children's public school activities. And trust me, they have more control over your school than you do. All I can do is take you through the document that your elected representatives governor, and justices are bound by oath to obey, and the truth will be revealed to you. Remember, natural law is our compass. If there is a standard by which one is bound by oath to obey, then that is the law that must be followed. If it is not obeyed, then it is outside of that law and is a void or illegitimate act. Before we get into the Kansas Constitution, let's be clear about a few things. States are sovereign countries. Now let that sink in for just a minute. Kansas is a country. The United States of America is not a sovereign country, nor is it a nation. We've never been a nation. A nation is a group of people who share the same culture, language, institutions, religion, and history. We have commonalities. We are 50 sovereign and independent countries united by self-determination and for our mutual benefit and security as it pertains to foreign matters in a united compact. A compact is similar to parties in a contract, and therefore the parties to this contract must obey the requirements listed in this contract, or in the case of countries, the compact. When the original colonies severed their ties to Great Britain, they became 13 states, countries, and operated by the Articles of Confederation, which worked quite well, with certain exceptions, mostly dealing with foreign and state-to-state issues. That's why delegates from each of the states were called together in convention to correct these problems. What happened is that the framers of what is now our U.S. Constitution formed a more perfect union by creating an executive, legislative, and judicial branch to handle foreign objects, interstate issues, and issues between a state and a citizen of another state. These powers were delegated to this new U.S. general government to work on behalf of the several sovereign states, our countries. All other powers are retained by the states or the people. If you look at the U.S. Constitution in the Bill of Rights, we have 10. The 10th Amendment says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Okay, so even the founders in that Bill of Rights recognizes state sovereignty. We operate in a federalist system of self-governance, where the states are the sovereign countries, but some power has been delegated to a separate non-sovereign government to handle the things that the several states can't possibly manage. This is called federalism. We are not just a republic, we are a federal republic in its true definition. Every republican form of government has to have a constitution that binds it in order to protect the right of the people to life, liberty, and property. But our system is federal in that each of the states has delegated a limited and defined set of powers to this central government to handle foreign objects. Each state in its united compact must operate using that republican form of government and bound by their constitutions. Whensoever the general government assumes undelegated powers, a nullification of the act is the rightful remedy. Okay? And what that means is that if you have your own state government squared away, you have your own house in order, your own state, your own country in order, your representatives, your state representatives will understand what their purpose is when something like this happens in the U.S. general government. Right now, they have no clue because they don't know the truth. Nullification is a rightful remedy. noncompliance is a rightful remedy, okay, as it pertains to the U.S. general government. So when the U.S. general government is out of line, something needs to happen at the state level, okay? The states do not have to fulfill any unconstitutional law that comes out of the U.S. general government. And the same is true at our state level. If your state government is behaving unconstitutionally and there is legislation that you know is unconstitutional and can prove it, you should nullify it. That's your duty. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That's one government. It is considered the supreme law of the land because it is the central government that is part of this binding compact. And it deals with foreign objects, state-to-state issues, and a state and a citizen of another state, those types of issues. And the Constitution of the state of Kansas. Okay? When you take an oath to that, you better know it. Know what these documents are. Now, notice that it did not say anything about a statute. It didn't say anything about an act that was written and ratified by the legislature. You're taking an oath to the Constitution of the United States and to the Kansas Constitution. And that's it. That's what our government officials are bound to. Breaching your oath of office is a pretty serious misdemeanor, okay, because you've taken an oath to it. Articles of impeachment. The articles of impeachment are the written accusation of the officer drawn up and approved by the House of Representatives. When the state of Kansas was chartered, of course, the process of chartering a new country, a new state, every state would be chartered as a new country on the same level as all of the other original states, completed by Congress, the U.S. Congress. And here you have a document here. It's acceptance of grant from Congress, and it has the ordinance and preamble. Okay, and the ordinance says, whereas the government of the United States is the proprietor of a large portion of the lands included in the limits of the state of Kansas as defined by this Constitution. And whereas the state of Kansas will possess the right to tax land, said land, for purposes of government and for other purposes now, therefore. Now, why did I outline tax said lands? When they wrote this, they included that this government would be able to tax settlers on the amount of land that they settled on. Okay, we have property taxes here in Kansas. The property taxes, of course, taxes our land, which is constitutional. You can't change that. That's an absolute truth, that we can't change that unless we go through a process of amending our Constitution, and that's a process that's meaningfully difficult. Okay, there's a reason for that. Okay, this is an absolute truth. But if you build something on that property, if you put a boat on that property, if you have a car, whatever, there is nothing in the Constitution so far that I know of that says that the government can use your property that's been built or purchased that sits on the soil that can be taxed to fund the government. Okay, that's a perversion of original intent of our state's Constitution. It says right here, this is an absolute truth. Whereas the state of Kansas will possess the right to tax said lands for purpose of government and for other purposes Now, therefore. In our Constitution, it lists, that they're sectioning off land for schools. They section off land for universities, lands for public buildings, benevolent institutions, okay? And then it goes on, salt springs and mines, proceeds to schools, school lands. Okay, then we get to the preamble. It says here in the preamble of the Kansas Constitution, we, the people of Kansas, grateful to Almighty God for our civil and religious privileges in order to ensure the full enjoyment of our rights as American citizens, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the state of Kansas with the following boundaries to wit. Okay, then they talk about boundaries. Okay? Then we get into the Bill of Rights. And by reading through the Bill of Rights, you are going to see very clearly that violations have been committed. All right, the Bill of Rights. First one on the list, all men and women are possessed of equal and inalienable natural rights. These are not privileges. These are natural rights, among which are a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, note, the pursuit of happiness was generally understood to come from the right to own your own property. Let me just make it clear that your state government does not have a right to protect your life. It's not their job to protect your life. It's their job to protect your right to your own life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness or pursuit to own property. Number 2 on the list, all political power is inherent in the people. We're talking about natural inherent rights again. And all free governments are founded on their authority and are instituted for their equal protection and benefit. No special privileges or immunities shall ever be granted by the legislature, which may not be altered, revoked, or repealed by the same body. And this power shall be exercised by no other tribunal or agency. You can't play favorites. Your government can't play favorites. They can't have conflicts of interest. They can't serve their lobbyists. They have to serve the general. They have to do things that are in general going to serve the public and protect their rights to life, liberty, and property. This means neither the governor or a Supreme Court justice, I'm talking Kansas Supreme Court justice, or their inferior courts at any level can ever have or exercise this power, period. Okay, number 3 in the Bill of Rights here in the state of Kansas. The people have the right to assemble in a peaceable manner, to consult for their common good, to instruct their representatives, and to petition the government or any department thereof for the redress of grievances. Has your right to assemble been infringed upon? If it has, by whom? And did they have a right to do that? If not, and if it was in your government, that's impeachable. That's an absolute truth. This right is also it's the 5th right listed in the First Amendment of the U.S. Bill of Rights, that the Congress is not allowed to, prohibit ever. Okay? But right now we're talking about the Kansas Constitution and what our Kansas government is doing. I'll just leave it to your imagination right there. I think we have some violations. Okay, number 4 in the Kansas Constitution, the Bill of Rights. A person has the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of self, family, home, and state, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for any other lawful purpose. If I'm defending myself, my family, and my home, or my state, I should have the right to any kind of weaponry I need to defend myself, not only from an intruder, insurgents, rioters, or government. But standing armies in time of peace are dangerous to liberty and shall not be tolerated, and the military shall be in strict subordination to the civil power. This is similar to the Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Moving on. Number 5, trial by jury. The right of trial by jury shall be inviolate. Inviolate means it cannot be violated by a court or any government, okay? This is similar to the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, where it says, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein blah, blah, blah. Okay, remember, the U.S. Constitution applies to cases under federal jurisdiction, and we have our own. Are our trials speedy? Not really. So we have a problem. We need some reform there, don't we? Okay, so think about that. That's a truth. Okay, the right of trial by jury shall be inviolate, meaning it shall not be violated. If it's a federal issue, they even list that it needs to be a speedy and public trial. All right, number 6 is, it's a no-brainer. There shall be no slavery in this state and no involuntary servitude except for the punishment of crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Then we have number 7, the right to worship God according to the dictates of conscience shall is a strong word, shall never be infringed. That's non-negotiable. Nor shall any person be compelled to attend or support any form of worship, nor shall any control of or interference with the rights of conscience be permitted, nor any preference be given by law to any religious establishment or mode of worship. No religious test or property qualification shall be required for any office of public trust, nor for any vote at any election, nor shall any person be incompetent to testify on account of religious belief. Okay, let me go back. Worship God according to the dictates of conscience shall never be infringed, nor shall any control of or interference with the rights of conscience be permitted. Now, has anyone in government infringed upon number 7? If they have, then they should be impeached today. Number 8, habeas corpus. The right to the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended. There's that word again, shall. That's non-negotiable. Unless the public safety requires it in case of invasion or rebellion, is a pandemic or an emergency or a tornado that tears up one town or even 2 towns. Is that an invasion or rebellion? I don't think so. So habeas corpus, okay. Let's go through the definition. A writ, it's Old English terminology here. It's one's authority to do something. That's a writ. Habeas corpus, a writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or into court, especially to secure the person's release unless lawful grounds are shown for their detention. People need due process. The government can't just snatch you off off your property and tuck you away someplace without due process. Can't happen in the U.S. government, and it can't happen here in your own country, the state of Kansas. Number 9, all persons shall be bailable by sufficient securities except for capital offenses, where proof is evident or the presumption great. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishment inflicted. Now, this is very similar to the 8th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, where it says, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. Until you've had a trial, you're innocent until proven guilty. And that's the best way to do this. Okay. Anymore, it's you're guilty until proven innocent. You shouldn't have to prove your innocence. You're innocent until proven guilty. Therefore, you shouldn't have excessive fines imposed for bail or cruel or unusual punishment. Number 10 of the Kansas Bill of Rights. In all prosecutions, the accused shall be allowed to appear and defend in person or by counsel to demand the nature and cause of the accusation against him or her, to meet the witness face to face, and to have compulsory process to compel the attendance of the witnesses in his or her behalf, and a speedy public trial by an impartial jury of the county or district in which the offense is alleged to have been committed. No person shall be a witness against him or herself or be twice put in jeopardy for the same offense. Okay, this is similar to the 5th and 6th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, where it says, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. That's the 5th Amendment. The accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime, and so on. That's from the 6th Amendment. How many people actually get and are guaranteed a speedy public trial anymore? If not, then we have a problem in our judicial system, and people are soaking the public of funds by dragging these trials out forever. And our attorneys are to blame for this. I'm sorry. I have friends who are attorneys, and they're good people, but I'm sorry. The system drags these out, and I think it's about money. We have a guarantee to a speedy trial. We need to get to the bottom of it quickly. And if our judicial system is not honoring that right in the Bill of Rights, then we, the people, need to challenge that. We need to reform that. And I'm guaranteeing you, by the time people get done with these trials and they drag on for years, sometimes decades, no one can afford to do that. And they know that. Who benefits from that? The attorneys, the lawyers, these law firms. It has to end. Okay, number 11 of the Kansas Bill of Rights. The liberty of the press shall be inviolate. In other words, it can't be violated. And all persons may freely speak, write, or publish their sentiments on all subjects. Did you get that? Okay, number 11 protects the right of press and speech. Being responsible for the abuse of such rights, and in all civil or criminal actions for libel, the truth may be given in evidence to the jury, and if it shall appear that the alleged libelous matter was published for justifiable ends, the accused party shall be acquitted. We have liberty. We have free speech. We have free press. We have liberties that are innate. However, it stops when you infringe upon another. Okay, this amendment includes the second and third right listed in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. That's where you're going to find it, okay, where it says, or abridging the freedom of speech or of press. Okay, you still have that. That's that other government. We're saying the same thing as what's listed in the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution. It's just written and spread out differently in our state's constitution. But this is the Constitution that you need to know, because this directly affects your life, your business, your property. We have control over our state government. more so than we have control over the U.S. general government. All right, number 12 of the Kansas Constitution, no forfeiture of estate for crimes. Okay, so if you're committed for a crime, taken in for a crime, it says here, no conviction within the state shall work a forfeiture of estate. They can't steal your property. That's the bottom line. This amendment is similar to the last line of the Fifth Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, where it says, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, it's kind of different because we're dealing with a state crime. Okay, number 13, treason shall consist only in levying war against the state, adhering to its enemies, or giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the evidence of 2 witnesses to the overt act or confession in open court. Okay, so they need proof because this is a pretty serious crime. Has anyone levied war against Kansas, either from within government, as a citizen of our state, or as a citizen from another state? I'm just asking the question. You think about it. Okay, my other question is this. What about other states like California, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, or New York? Levying war against the state, adhering to its enemies, or giving them aid and comfort. Okay, every state has a constitution. If you have a governor or a mayor that allows the state or a city or a community or a business to be completely destroyed by insurgents or Antifa or BLM extremists, most of which possibly don't belong to your state, who are not citizens of your state, possibly, you allow them to continue to destroy your state. Is your state under attack? Has war been levied against your state? And are you being an accessory to that war? Okay, I'm just asking the questions. You think about it. Number 14 of the Kansas Bill of Rights. All right, this is a no-brainer. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the occupant, nor in time of war, except as prescribed by law. All right, this is exactly the same as the Third Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Here's number 15. The right of the people to be secure in their persons and property against unreasonable searches and seizures shall be inviolate, and no warrant shall issue but on probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons of property to be seized. Now, what's a reasonable or unreasonable warrant? Take a look. Similar to the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, what is an unreasonable search? The answer is any search without probable cause. You got to have that in the warrant. A search not supported by oath or affirmation. It has to be in there too. A warrant that doesn't specifically describe the places to be searched. That has to be in there. A warrant that doesn't list the persons or property to be seized. It all has to be there. If it's not there, if any one part of that is not there, then this warrant is null and void. It's an improper warrant, and it's an unreasonable search. 16, no person shall be imprisoned for debt except in cases of fraud. Simple. Number 17, no distinction shall ever be made between citizens of the state of Kansas and the citizens of other states and territories of the United States in reference to the purchase, enjoyment, or descent of property. The rights of aliens in reference to the purchase, enjoyment, or descent of property may be regulated by law. Now, basically, they're just allowing people to come in from other states to buy property and do business. We are part of the same compact. Number 18, all persons for injuries suffered in person, reputation, or property shall have remedy by due course of law and justice administered, here it is again, without delay. The only people that benefit from that, again, are lawyers and attorneys. That needs to be corrected. Okay, number 19 of the Kansas Bill of Rights. No hereditary emoluments, honors, or privileges shall ever be granted or conferred by the state. Emoluments is a salary, fee, or profit from employment or a position in office. Okay, in other words, a hereditary monarch is not allowed, and titles are not passed down through family or bloodlines. We don't want to return to the monarchy. Number 20 of the Kansas Constitution, of the Bill of Rights. This enumeration of rights shall not be construed to impair or deny others retained by the people, and all powers not herein delegated remain with the people. In other words, in the articles, there are powers delegated to your state's government. All other powers are retained by you. You have a responsibility to self-govern. They are not responsible for saving your life. You have to govern yourself. We have to govern ourselves at the city and county level. We have governments here. It's a bottom-up process. In the U.S. Constitution, Amendment number 9 says basically the same thing, and it says this: the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10 of the U.S. Constitution says this: the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states, respectively, or the people. You see how that works? So here at the state level, our government has certain limited powers that's given to them, and they have to operate within that structure. And then the rest belongs to us. When you look at the U.S. general government, the states delegated certain defined and limited powers to the U.S. general government. Anything not listed is retained by the states or the people. Now, I want to just add that any statute, any legislation, statute, act, or mandates that are not in pursuance to your Kansas Constitution or U.S. Constitution shall be null and void and is no law at all. Okay? All right. I want to thank all of you for familiarizing yourself with our Kansas Bill of Rights and hope you found truth here. I will complete the 15 articles in the Kansas Constitution in Part 2 of this series, which will enumerate the powers of the judicial, executive, and legislative branches of our state's government and many more aspects of its constitutional function. You have far less control over what happens in the U.S. general government than you do here in your home country of Kansas, your city, and your county. And it's time you got your own house in order because it's in trouble and your state needs your attention. This is Verity Seeker, signing off.